Hello, tea friends. This is Barb Gully of Barb's Tea Service, and we are back at the On TV studios and ready for our current podcast. And I'm here with studio engineer, arm candy co-host Chris Gully. Hey, Chris.
Present and accounted for.
I see you.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So we are firmly in the double digits. We are on podcast 11.
Fantastic.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So today we've got a lot of ground to cover.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be traveling all over. So hopefully we can get everything in our 30 minutes.
Talk fast.
That's my specialty. And we're going to talk about Vienna.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to travel all the way to Vienna and royal palaces. And then we will come back and talk to someplace about someplace a little closer to home.
It's a whirlwind tour.
It is. So New Baltimore, a little bit closer than Austria.
Yeah, well.
Okay. And we'll talk a little bit about the shelf life of tea. That's a lot of people ask me about that.
Right.
And we will, if we have time and we really want to get to this, we have some listener feedback and we're pouring on more controversy.
Wow. Okay.
It's the triple C.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll expand upon that later.
We will.
Stay tuned.
Okay. So, first, tea.
Here we go.
All right. So today's tea is a tea. It's called Vienna tea.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to show this if you're watching.
Right.
This is the tea.
Right.
And I purchased this. I purchased this when we were at the Schönbrunn Palace in Austria.
Uh-huh.
And there's not a lot of description. I don't know a whole lot about this tea, but it is a Ceylon black tea. What do you think of it?
So so it's a little. So we did a breakfast tea last time.
That's right.
And this is kind of a different. So it's lighter. I would say, maybe a bit of floralness in it, but also I'm going to say kind of a taste of walnuts in there.
Ooh, okay. I do not disagree with that at all.
Right.
And it is typically, so Ceylon tea is from Sri Lanka.
Right.
And it's usually has some citrusy, floral, even spice.
Yes. Right.
But it really depends on where it is specificcally.
Right.
But it's typically known to have a full body taste.
Okay.
Do you get that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And not and it's not what's the word? Not doesn't have that astringent quality. This one, like some of the others we've had.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's milder.
Yep.
And yet full bodied.
Yes.
So it's got a lot going for it.
Right.
And I really like it.
Good.
So I thank you for that, Chris. Great analysis.
Well, it's my flavor wheels. That's my cheat sheet.
You come fully prepared.
That's right. I try.
2 flavor wheels.
Yes.
Okay. So I selected this tea, and I typically seem to have 2 reasons. I also have 2 reasons for selecting this tea.
Mm-hmm.
The first is we are going to be talking about Schönbrunn Palace.
Yes.
And I bought that in the gift shop.
Uh-huh.
And the other reason I chose it is because this is the end of the tea in this tin.
Uh-huh.
And we're kind of pushing it as far as its good quality life as a tea. And I thought, well, we better use it now because we went to Austria as part of a Blue Danube cruise late 2021.
We did.
And saw a lot of great things. We were there with our travel companions.
Right.
Ed, my brother Ed, and
had
Sammy.
a great time.
Yep, and cousins. And so we went there. When you think about it, late 2021, this is when I bought the tea.
Yes.
Is that too long? Can you still keep tea?
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And these are just guidelines. They're rules of thumb.
Right.
You know, it depends a lot on the tea,
Mm-hmm.
and it depends on how you store it.
Mm-hmm.
So here's some just guidelines
Right.
straight up. Okay, black tea can go 1 to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some say even 3. So we're pushing it.
Sure. Yep.
We're
Yep.
taking it to the limit.
Yep.
And for white tea, 1 to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Green tea, 1 year.
Okay.
And then for herbals,
Right.
this one might shock you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
3 months is really said to be maximum.
Okay. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's so it's not herbal teas are not teas. They're not from the Camellia sinensis plant.
Correct.
They're other ingredients. So
Right.
it's their profile is going to be different.
Right, exactly. So a lot of the florals that you get with lavender and chamomile tea,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to lose that
Right.
quickly. So
Mhm.
3 months really is maximum.
Yep.
So I think this tastes pretty good for
Yes. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Going on 3 years.
Yeah, it's held on well for all of its travels.
and I think part of that is because we stored it properly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you a
Mhm.
question.
Yes.
What do you think the 3 enemies of tea are
Three enemies.
when you are storing tea?
3 enemies. I'd say partying too hard, communism,
Ooh.
and I can't even make up the third one because I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say those are 2 guesses. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say they're necessarily good guesses.
Okay.
But,
Fair enough.
but what they really are
Yes.
is sunlight,
Uh-huh.
moisture, and temperature,
Yes.
which are all related.
Yeah.
And what you want to do is store your tea, whether it's loose or tea bags.
Right.
You want to store it in an opaque, dark canister, something that won't let those things come in.
Uh-huh.
Because tea absorbs what it's near.
Yes.
So even a plastic container can let some of that,
Mm-hmm.
what it's around.
Well, that's good to know. I think that's maybe a little counterintuitive because we, like many people, store a lot of stuff in plastic. Throw it in the back of the fridge until it starts turning green.
Hey, and you know what? If it starts out as green tea,
Yeah.
there are some exceptions. You want to store it in the refrigerator, like
Right.
your matcha.
Okay, there you go. Yes,
So
that's true.
you weren't too far off
Okay.
there.
All right.
Okay,
But not in plastic.
not in plastic.
All right.
And I think the reason I mentioned this still tastes very good is because we store it properly. So it is in its own. I have my own tea pantry.
Yes.
And I think you'd like me to maybe weed it out a little bit.
Maybe a little editing from time to time
Yes.
would be appropriate.
Okay, so, but it is in its own space. It's away from the coffee and it's away from spice. You have your own spice
I
pantry.
do. Yeah.
And it really is beautiful.
Yes.
It's something to admire.
It is.
It's
It's a work of art.
it kind of is.
Yeah.
So we keep it away from that again because
Right.
tea is going to absorb what it's around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, how do you know when the tea has expired?
I imagine probably there's maybe an off taste or something like that, or
Exactly. It's not like some foods you have to pay really strict attention
Right.
to their expiration, or you'll know it by
Right.
smell,
Right.
or and you got to be careful because sometimes if you eat things that have
Yeah.
passed their shelf life, you'll get sick.
yes.
But really, with tea,
Yeah.
the biggest indicator is how it looks
Mhm.
and how it tastes.
Right.
So if it's dull looking and it tastes
Mm-hmm.
not good,
Tired. I think
Tired.
it tastes
yes,
tired.
Yes. And one thing I'm going to throw out there,
Yeah.
because sometimes people, maybe you're not a tea drinker,
Right.
but you've been gifted it or you purchased it
Yeah.
maybe 10 years ago and you've
Right.
just kind of kept it
Right.
maybe near a spice shelf or whatever.
And you have not edited your tea
Yeah.
pantry.
You have not. And someone who loves tea comes over and you say, "Oh, I have some tea.
Right.
I'm going to get that out." And if it hasn't been stored properly, it's not going to taste very good.
You will not impress your guest,
You won't. So,
but they'll be polite
yeah, yes,
because tea drinkers are generally polite.
yes. One thing you might want to throw out there if you're the guest is, how old is this tea? That's not poor.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So that is our little tip for today. And
Very nice.
let's move on to Schönbrunn,
Yep.
the home of our almost expired tea.
Okay.
Okay, so remember going to the Schönbrunn Palace?
Yeah, so that was you kind of touched on it. It was 2021, and due to I don't know something that was happening in the world at the time, we almost had the place to ourselves. It was very weird. I mean, just a real lack of crowds in such, which is obviously a big tourist area.
Right. That was the silver lining, I
Right.
think, if you're looking at it, because we had to follow some pretty strict protocol on the ship.
Yep.
We had to be tested every day, had
Yep.
to wear masks
Right.
all the time,
Yep.
and
Good times.
good times, exactly. But it was one of those advantages, because even when we were in Salzburg,
Right.
where they filmed Sound of Music,
Yeah.
they said when we
Normal.
were there,
Normally, you're elbow to elbow.
so you really don't get to see much. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
had pretty much run of the town,
Exactly.
which was nice.
Yep.
So anyway, one of the things that we did do was the Schönbrunn Palace,
Mhm.
and this was part of the cruise excursions. You could opt
Yep.
for this,
Right.
And our team was deciding whether we were going to do a waltz dance instruction
Uh-huh.
or go to Schönbrunn Palace, and we were debating it a little bit, but it's almost
Yeah.
like fate. It was a category on Jeopardy,
That's right.
Schönbrunn Palace.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, we're doing
Yep.
this. Okay, so we ended up not taking the waltz class.
Which is probably the right decision.
It was such the right decision. So, because we haven't been asked really to do a waltz lately, have we?
No, matter of fact, I think we've been asked not to waltz.
Okay, so we made the right decision. We went to Schönbrunn Palace, and the Schönbrunn Palace is the home. It was the summer palace of the Habsburgs,
Right.
And the Habsburgs, they ruled the
Austria-Hungary Empire for centuries.
late 13th century
Right.
to that fateful
Yep.
1918.
A little World War I kind of ended that party.
It did. So when we went there, we got to see the opulence of this palace.
Yes.
That's not how it started its life.
Yes.
It started more as, I'll say, humble hunting lodge.
Right.
Not unlike another great palace that we visited,
Versailles.
Versailles.
Yeah.
Versailles started as a hunting lodge.
Yes.
So,
And I might add,
Yeah.
a third example might be our property, a pop-up camper, started out as our hunting lodge, and we built our own palace. History repeats.
it does. And I think this is a good time to mention that you are indeed a titled
This is true. This is
person.
true. Yes.
You are Lord of Glencoe.
Uh-huh. Me and maybe 100,000 other my fellow lords.
Well, you should be proud of it, because it cost over $100.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Okay, so you are you own some
Right.
property in Scotland.
Yes.
All right. So yes, very much similar,
Mm-hmm.
Pemberley
Yeah,
to Versailles
Yeah.
and Schönbrunn.
exactly. Okay.
All right. So it started out as this humble hunting lodge, but when Maria Theresa takes over,
Uh-huh.
that's when it just goes full palace.
Yeah, right.
And she ruled in the 1700s for
Right.
40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she had 16 children with her
Yes.
husband.
Mm-hmm.
She ruled this empire.
Yep.
She built onto this huge palace.
Right.
And I mean,
Yeah.
that's quite a person.
She's the whole package.
She was the whole package. And even her enemies had to admire her. And I'm going to paraphrase, but
Mm-hmm.
a Prussian emperor at the time said, finally,
Mm-hmm.
when Austria gets a great man, it's a woman.
Wow, kind of a mean thing to say about the men, I guess, huh?
Well,
Okay.
they weren't, I guess, as amazing as she was. But part of Maria Theresa's diplomacy was marrying off her children to different places,
Right.
so they could keep the peace. And
Sort of.
Sort of. That was the intention.
Yeah.
But she married her one daughter, probably her most famous daughter is...
Marie Antoinette.
Yes. So another connection to Versailles.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And that was, we know how that turned out.
Right.
But when we went to Schönbrunn, they don't allow you to take pictures.
Right.
And
which I promptly forgot.
Which I think was kind of okay
Yeah.
because we got one picture of the Great Gallery.
Before I was yelled at.
And they kind of took this, I think they lifted it or copied it perhaps
Yeah.
from Versailles, the Hall of Mirrors. That's
Sure.
what it looks like.
Yeah.
But even our tour guide said, I don't know why you can't take pictures. I think they just want to sell more of their books.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching, I'm going
Yes.
to show you. This is what I bought. I
Yes.
had to buy so
Uh-huh.
I could get pictures.
Yes.
And I also just recently bought this. This will be a future Tuesday Tea and Tomes.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot of Habsburg.
A lot of Habsburgs.
Okay, so then I think we really enjoyed that tour. It was something,
Yes,
wasn't
it
it?
was good, yes.
And then we'll fast forward to a little bit closer to our time in the 1800s.
Right.
And when we were in the gift shop, we saw all this stuff related to Sisi.
Right.
Sisi.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful woman and posters, and it was some kind of TV show or movie or something like that, and we were a little more tuned into English history and that sort of thing.
Right.
But Eastern European history we don't typically get a whole lot of exposure to here, which is too bad.
Right.
But anyway, so continue. We later found out big time.
Exactly, and that's how our tour guide said. Because I said, "Oh, what is
Yeah.
who is Sisi?" And
Yeah.
she goes, "She's like your Princess Di."
Right. Yeah.
That's how she's very popular and famous with people here
Right.
in Austria. So a little bit about her story.
Right.
So in 1854, she married Franz Joseph I.
Right.
And interesting how she met him, or how this came about,
Right.
was after Franz Joseph's father had passed away, his wife, Sophia, she wants her son to get married.
Right.
And she's quite domineering.
Right.
And she's been putting these
Yeah.
ladies in front of Franz Joseph, and he doesn't like any of them.
No.
So she gets in touch with her sister. They weren't texting back then, didn't
Right.
have a phone, but
Yeah.
she got word out to her sister that,
Yep.
why don't you bring your oldest daughter here?
Yeah.
They lived in another section of Germany.
Yeah.
And
Said, let's make it happen.
let's make it happen. So they come, I believe it was Bavaria.
Mhm.
They come, and she doesn't bring her oldest daughter alone. She brings her youngest daughter,
Right.
who is Elizabeth,
Yes.
Sisi.
Aha.
So Sisi is said to have been so beautiful,
Yes.
and that's who Franz wanted to marry.
Aha.
So that's what he insisted upon, and that's why they were married. She was 17, he was 24.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a total creep out at
Yeah,
all.
no.
Like we see with a lot of those arranged marriages,
Right.
where the young bride is in her late teens and the groom is in his 50s
Yeah.
or 60s. And or like a Hollywood movie,
That's
like White Christmas,
that's right. Oh yeah.
or even poor Cressida Cowper.
That's right.
She was gonna be
Oh, yeah.
hooked to that
Oh yeah.
old dude.
Bridgerton
Okay.
reference.
Yes, Bridgerton reference. Okay, so with Sisi, she was, again, a lot like Princess Di.
Uh huh.
She was pretty. She
Yeah.
was fashionable. She was popular with the common people because she reached out to
Right.
them. She connected with them.
Right.
But she also suffered from bouts of depression.
Uh huh.
And they had one son, her and Franz. They had 4 children, but one son.
Right.
And he had a rather tragic
Yeah.
life.
Right.
He ended up dying. It was a murder-suicide
Yeah.
pact
Oh.
at a hunting lodge that
Yeah.
he had purchased. And then she was assassinated when she was 60.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was very sad. And then, the heir was a nephew of Franz Joseph, and then Franz Ferdinand,
Right.
who his murder kicked off World War I.
Yes.
and also was a name of a Scottish band in 2003. But Franz Ferdinand ended the Habsburg dynasty. Right. So enough of these feel-good stories.
Yes, I know.
We'll move on.
Right.
So, okay, let's move over to a little closer to home.
Yes.
And we want to talk about a tea house that we had visited a few weeks ago after one of our podcasts.
Yes.
We took a drive out to New Baltimore.
It was a gorgeous day.
Beautiful day.
Yep.
And the Pink House is located on Anchor Bay.
Right.
And it was now patio season because I've known the owner, Jennifer C. She had Just Delicious Scones. She had the Royal Treat Tea Room in Roseville.
Right.
And I'd been there a few times
Right.
and had bought her scones. But
Right.
then a few years ago, she purchased this Pink House
Right.
and renovated it, made it a tea house and B&B.
Right.
And now her son joins her,
Yes.
Rex.
Yeah.
So we got to meet up with them
Right.
out on the patio.
Mhm.
Her son now goes by T-Rex.
TEA.
Yes, I think that's very cute and love
Okay.
it. Anyway, they've got a lot of cool things going on there.
Yes.
And when I was there the last time at the Pink House, I was with Pam,
Yep.
BTS team member, and it was in November.
Yep.
Great food, great service.
And so really, it's kind of an overused term, but it had a really a lot of energy, good vibe.
Yes.
The staff was great. I mean, busy. They were busy, but but very attentive. And which which you as a customer you appreciate.
Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good energy there. And actually, we just went up to the bar.
Yeah, yeah.
And they have counter seating.
Yep.
They were so busy.
Yep.
And we hadn't made reservations.
Yeah.
But we said, hey, we'll just sit at the counter.
Yep.
We opted for that.
Right.
And that was wonderful, too.
It was great.
And a nice vibe. So they've got some plans coming up.
Right.
They added another space for dining
Uh-huh.
that Jennifer's just putting on some last-minute decor. They are now going to have the patio open. So now November
Yeah.
in Michigan.
Yeah.
Now we can enjoy that.
That's right, yes.
So they might be doing extended hours.
Yes.
Which, can you imagine sunset
Yes.
on
Beautiful.
that patio? Okay. So I want to ask you though, what did you think of the food and the tea?
It was really well done. The whole experience was very good. Would recommend. I hope we can go back there again sometime.
We will.
Yeah.
And I think it's not. There were a fair amount of gents. You were not alone.
This is true. Yeah. They they do. Should mention their menu. They don't that I could see. They don't do tea sandwiches and that sort of thing. There's a lot of quiches, and which was I had which was wonderful and that type of food.
You can get the full tea service if you want.
Right. But just off their menu.
Correct. And that quiche, they have this signature quiche, very nice and creamy. Oh, yummy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna go back for sure.
Yep.
And this leads. Speaking of something creamy.
Yes.
This leads to our viewer feedback, and I think we do have a little bit of time, don't we?
Oh, yes. So we're good. Yep.
Okay. So we're calling this the CCC.
As opposed to Sisi, the Empress.
That's right. Oh, that's a clever tie-in.
I am clever.
Okay. So, but I'm going to add another C to
Okay,
it.
yes.
So it was going to be the Clotted Cream Controversy.
That's right.
But I'm adding another C.
Okay.
A bouncy C.
Okay. All right.
And this is the Clotted Cream Controversy clarification.
There you go. Yeah. So I think in one of our earlier podcasts, we kind of touched on clotted cream, and I think we're talking about scones being a clotted cream and jam delivery system.
Right.
And if you go to a tea room, you can typically get clotted cream there.
Right. And I think at that podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe was number 4,
Yeah.
you had mentioned you can't get clotted cream
No,
in
that's
the
true.
US.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yes, that was true. Yeah.
And we had some keen listeners
That's right.
say,
That's a bold statement.
that is a bold statement.
No.
And you
Yes.
can purchase clotted cream
Yes.
at the grocery store.
Yes.
And the difference is,
Yep.
and here's,
I hear a butt coming on.
oh, yeah, I could say that for sure. This is not true clotted cream.
Right.
In its truest form.
Right. There's capital C clotted cream, and then there's maybe small c clotted cream.
Right. So clotted cream is made from unpasteurized milk.
Right.
And in the 1920s
Right.
in the U.S.,
Right.
the law became all milk has to be pasteurized.
Right.
And together with that, it's homogenized. You
Right.
get more consistency,
Right.
nicer flavor.
Right.
That happened in the 1920s.
Right.
That put an end to clotted cream
Uh-huh.
in the U.S.
Right.
So, what we're seeing is a close
Right.
approximation of clotted cream,
Right.
with pasteurized milk,
Yes.
but it's not the kind you can get in England,
Right.
because they don't have to have
They
it
don't. Yeah. They don't
pasteurized.
have to have it pasteurized. Yeah.
So there are some states that do allow some selling of unpasteurized
Mm-hmm.
milk. So, and we've been told by our attentive listeners
Yes.
that there are some right near us.
Right.
If that's the case,
Yes.
buy some and make some clotted cream.
Which is which is actually not that difficult, from what we've read.
Right.
Yet to try it.
Right. It's just time consuming,
Right,
because I think
right.
you have to bake it for like 12 hours
Yeah.
or
Right.
something.
At very low heat. and
Right.
That sort of thing.
Right. But I think, does that clarify that? Or
I think we've done a wonderful job.
and I think that is an important
Yep.
thing to know, because you can for sure get clotted cream here. It will
Right.
say clotted cream.
Right.
But it's not what
Yeah.
we've enjoyed
Yes.
in England.
That's right.
But we've still enjoyed it.
That's right.
Okay. So I do want to note that we have a few interesting things in our blog
Mhm.
this week. We've got the Pink House.
Yes.
If you want to read about that.
Mhm.
We have a Tuesday Tea and Tone, but I'm going to save that for a future podcast.
Mhm.
We're also going to be talking about Bridgerton,
Mm-hmm.
because as we mentioned earlier, the season 3 part 2 has dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I also wanted to quickly mention that when we talked about Bridgerton coming on, Sisi,
Yes.
her story, when we came back
Oh,
from
yes.
Austria,
Yeah.
there is a Netflix series called The Empress.
Yes.
And we saw the full first
Yeah.
season, and
And enjoyed it.
loved it. And so
Yeah.
there's going to be a season 2.
Right.
Reportedly, they're working on season 2, so
Right.
that's really great.
Okay.
Okay, so check out our blog for those stories
Mhm.
and upcoming stories. And
Right.
I think I might hear that sound.
You do. There we go.
Okay, I hear the kettle saying
Yeah.
time to wrap up.
That's right.
I want to thank everybody for listening / watching. I want to thank my wonderful co-host, Arm Candy Chris.
Thank you.
And we want to thank On TV Studios
Mhm.
once again. And we appreciate all of you staying tuned.
Nice. Okay. We're out.